For over 300 years, the Amish have never missed a harvest. No supermarket runs, no panic buying, no empty shelves, just quiet, unbroken food security. Season after season, generation after generation, built not on luck or land size, but on knowledge. Which crops to grow, when to plant them, how to keep a family fed when the rest of the world is scrambling. Every August that knowledge points to containers, while modern gardeners are winding down, putting tools away, telling themselves spring is the time to grow. Amish women are loading pots. 9 vegetables that will be on their tables in 6 weeks. Still producing when the first frost kills everything else in the neighborhood. Here is what makes this worth your full attention. These 9 vegetables will taste better because you planted them in August. Not in spite of the timing, because of it. Cool autumn air converts the starches in these crops into natural sugars. The colder it gets, the sweeter they become. You cannot buy that flavor. You can only grow it. We are covering all 9 today. And number 6 will stop you cold. 35 days from seed to harvest. The fastest food insurance policy any gardener can plant right now. Don't miss it. Vegetable number 1. Spinach. Here is what the grocery store will never tell you. That bag of leaves sitting under fluorescent lights right now was harvested weeks ago. The sugars have already broken down. The nutrients have already declined. What you're paying for is a memory of what spinach once was. What you can grow in August is something entirely different. As autumn temperatures drop, spinach converts its own starches into simple sugars. Those sugars aren't just flavor, they're the plant's natural antifreeze, lowering the freezing point inside each cell to protect the leaves from frost. The colder it gets, the sweeter and more resilient the plant becomes. You are not racing the frost. You are using it. Plant in a container at least 6 inches deep. Bloomsdale or Thai are proven autumn performers. Sow half an inch deep and keep soil consistently moist for the first week. August heat accelerates evaporation fast, and dry soil is the single most common reason August sowings fail. Germination in 7 to 14 days. First harvest in 30 to 45 days. Pull the outer leaves and the center keeps growing. 1 pot, 6 weeks. Continuous harvest through November. Vegetable number 2. Radish. If spinach is patience, radish is the fastest return in the container garden. 25 to 35 days from seed to table. Not a growing season, a lead time shorter than most grocery deliveries. But here is what most gardeners miss. Radishes grown in summer heat accumulate defensive compounds that make them aggressively hot, woody, almost unpleasant. That same root planted now, maturing in cooling September air, produces something entirely different. Crisp, mild, almost sweet. The Amish always knew which season made the better radish. They planted accordingly. So should you. Sow 1/4 to half an inch deep in any container at least 6 inches deep. Cherry bell or French breakfast are ideal. Thin to 1 to 2 inches apart. Water evenly. Sudden heavy watering after a dry spell splits roots from the inside out and ruins the harvest in a single afternoon. 30 days after sowing, you are pulling radishes while your neighbors are buying them. Vegetable number 3. Leaf lettuce. Read the label on that plastic clamshell of salad mix. Washed, triple washed, ready to eat. What it doesn't tell you, those leaves were in a field 3 weeks ago. Harvested by machine. Chilled in a refrigerated truck. Transferred through a distribution center. Stacked under lighting that keeps breaking down the vitamins with every passing hour. By the time that lettuce reaches your fork, it has been dying for weeks. Lettuce grown in a container 6 to 8 inches deep and harvested the same morning you eat it is not the same food. Not even close. The flavor difference alone will make you question every salad you have eaten for the last decade. August is the right time to start because cooling September days do the work you cannot do manually. They slow the plant's urge to bolt. Summer heat triggers bitterness and premature seeding. Autumn air keeps leaves tender, mild, and continuously productive. Salad bowl or butter crunch are ideal. Sow 1/4 inch deep and thin to 4 inches apart. Here is the technique that separates experienced growers from beginners. Never pull the whole plant. Cut the outer leaves and leave the central growing point intact. One container managed this way supplies your kitchen for up to 6 continuous weeks. One pot, one planting, 6 weeks of daily harvests. Vegetable number 4. Carrot. Here is the problem with ground-grown carrots nobody puts on the seed packet. Rocky soil forks them. Heavy clay stunts them. Hard subsoil stops the taproot dead and sends it sideways into something that looks more like a claw than a vegetable. Container carrots have none of those problems. Fill a pot 12 to 18 inches deep with loose, porous potting mix and you hand the carrot exactly what it was designed to grow through. Unobstructed, freely draining soil with no rocks, no compaction, no walls forcing the root to deform. What comes out is straight, smooth, and sweet in a way that ground-grown carrots in difficult soil simply cannot match. August sowing works for the same reason it works with every crop on this list. Warm soil jumpstarts germination fast. Cooling autumn air then triggers that same starch-to-sugar conversion in the roots. The sweetest winter carrots the Amish pulled came from seed sown in August heat. Carrot seeds are fine enough to sow too thickly without realizing it. Mix them with dry sand before sowing to distribute evenly. Sow 1/4 to 1/2 inch deep in a container at least 12 inches deep. 18 is better. Little finger or Adelaide were developed specifically for container depth constraints. Thin with scissors, never by pulling. Pulling disturbs every root beside the one you removed. 55 to 80 days to harvest. Start now and you are pulling sweet autumn carrots in October. Quick question, how many times have you replanted the same tomatoes, the same basil, the same peppers? Every single spring? Same cart, same garden center, same cycle. What if you only had to plant it once? That's literally the idea behind Plant Once, my perennial starter checklist and zone guide. Find your zone in under 5 minutes. Know exactly what to plant first. And build a garden that comes back year after year, without you lifting a finger every spring. Plant it once. Harvest it for years. Links in the description, or scan the QR code on your screen to get your copy right now. Let's stop starting over. Before we get to the next 5, a quick question. Are you someone who believes real food security starts at home, not at a checkout counter? This channel was built for you. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week, traditional growing knowledge backed by modern research that the commercial food system has no interest in you ever finding out. Drop a comment below. Tell me where you're growing from and what you're planting first. I read every single one. Now, for vegetables down. Each one already gives you a legitimate autumn harvest from a container on your porch or balcony. But the 5 we're about to cover, this is where the list gets genuinely interesting. Vegetable 6 is the one I promised you at the start. 35 days. 1 pot. The fastest food insurance policy any gardener can plant in August. Stay with me. Vegetable number 5. Kale. Amish and Mennonite families have grown kale for generations without ever being told to. Not because it was trendy, because it was dependable. When everything else in the garden surrendered to the cold, kale was still standing, and getting better. This is the crop that improves with punishment. Every degree the temperature drops in September and October triggers that same starch-to-sugar conversion we have seen across this entire list. But in kale, the transformation is more dramatic than in almost any other vegetable. The raw bitterness that makes summer kale difficult dissolves entirely. What replaces it is sweet, rich, almost nutty. A flavor experienced growers wait all season for. You cannot rush it. You cannot replicate it under grow lights. You can only grow kale in autumn and let the cold do the work. One seedling in a 5-gallon container at least 10 inches deep. Red Russian or dwarf Siberian are ideal for container growing and cold tolerance. Kale is a heavy feeder. Work compost into your potting mix before planting and side dress with fish emulsion every 3 weeks. Harvest the outer leaves consistently and the plant produces new growth from the center continuously, well into December in most zones. 1 pot, 1 plant. Harvests from October through the first hard freeze. Vegetable number 6. Bok choy. This is the one I promised you. 30 to 45 days from seed to harvest. The fastest turnaround on this entire list. And the reason bok choy has been a food security staple across Asia for centuries. When communities needed food fast, they planted bok choy. The logic has not changed. What has changed is how few Western gardeners think to plant it in August. Here is what makes bok choy uniquely suited to late summer containers. It germinates readily in August warmth, establishes fast, then matures into the exact cool autumn conditions it was designed for. The timing is almost perfect by accident. Dwarf varieties like Mei Ching choy or Joy choy stay compact enough for containers 8 to 10 inches deep. Sow 1/4 to half an inch deep and thin to 3 to 6 inches apart. Keep moisture consistent. Bok choy that dries out bolts fast, sending up a flower stalk that turns every stem tough and bitter overnight. Harvest leaf by leaf as baby greens for the fastest return, or let the plant mature into a full crisp head. Either way, what you are pulling from that container in September was planted in August from a seed that cost less than a cent. 35 days. 1 pot. The fastest food insurance policy in the August garden. Vegetable number 7. Swiss chard. Walk through any traditional Amish kitchen garden in late summer, and you will find Swiss chard growing in the corner that gets overlooked. Not because it is unimportant, because it requires almost nothing and keeps producing long after everything else has been pulled and preserved. The vegetable that runs on neglect and returns the favor in color and abundance. Most gardeners treat Swiss chard as a single harvest crop. They grow it, pull it, move on. That is the single biggest mistake you can make with this plant. Swiss chard is a cut-and-come-again crop built for the long game. Take the outer leaves first, petioles and all, and leave the inner leaves completely undisturbed. The central crown keeps growing. A single plant managed this way produces a continuous supply of fresh greens from September through early winter without ever being replanted. The more consistently you harvest the outer leaves, the harder the plant works to replace them. Container at least 10 to 12 inches deep. A single-gallon pot supports 1 plant. Space multiple plants 4 to 6 inches apart in larger containers. Bright lights or Fort Hook Giant are ideal. Both handle light frosts without losing leaf quality. Sow half an inch deep and keep soil consistently moist through germination. 50 to 60 days to first full harvest. But outer leaves can be taken as early as 30 days, which means this pot starts feeding you before it is even finished growing. Vegetable number 8. Beet. Beets are the most misunderstood vegetable on this list. Most people grow them for the root and throw away the greens. Amish families have always known better. This is the dual-yield crop. 1 pot, 2 completely different foods. The greens emerging above the soil are tender, nutritious, and harvestable within 3 to 4 weeks of sowing. Long before the root has finished swelling. They cook exactly like Swiss chard. Mild, slightly earthy, genuinely good. Meanwhile, beneath the surface, the root is quietly building into the sweet, dense vegetable ready at 50 to 60 days. 2 harvests running simultaneously from a single container. Plant in a container at least 10 to 12 inches deep. The root needs that depth to swell without deforming against the bottom. A 2-gallon container supports multiple plants at a final spacing of 3 to 4 inches. Ruby Queen or Kyaja are well suited for container depth constraints and autumn maturity windows. One critical detail most sources skip. Beet seeds are not single seeds. Each one is a dried fruit containing multiple embryos. Multiple seedlings will emerge from every planting spot. Thin with scissors, never pull. Pulling disturbs every root beside the one you removed and sets the whole container back by weeks. 2 harvests. 1 pot. That is the Amish definition of efficiency. Vegetable number 9. Turnip. The Amish did not grow turnips because they were fashionable. They grew them because turnips did not ask for much and gave back everything. Poor soil. Used potting mix from last season. A 3-gallon container that has already run 2 crops this year. Turnips will grow in all of it without complaint. No amendments. No special fertilizer. No particular attention. Just consistent moisture and enough cool autumn air to do what this crop has always done. Convert the cold into sweetness. Sow half an inch deep and thin to 2 to 3 inches apart once seedlings establish. 30 to 60 days to harvest. Pull them young for mild, tender roots or let them run longer for full size. The greens are edible from the earliest weeks. Peppery, nutritious, wasted by anyone who does not know to take them. Purple top white globe. The variety Amish families have grown for generations. never replaced, because it simply works. Pull the roots, cook the greens, waste nothing. That is not a gardening tip. That is a philosophy, and that is what every pot on this list represents. 9 containers, 9 crops, every one of them planted in August by people who understood that food security is not something you buy. It is something you grow deliberately, quietly, and one pot at a time. Start today.